said it's worth it.
It is worth it.
Yeah, and there's another vote. So I think, I mean, I still have 60 days from the time of purchase to buy the coverage, but I think I'm going to do that. And I should have gotten the Thunderbolt cable too, because the entire transfer of files from the old computer to this one was considerable. It was like, it ended up being like 10 hours.
Oh, I was talking about the Thunderbolt cable was worth it. What else is worth it?
The Thunderbolt cable, which I did not get, it, would have been worth it because my transfer speed was very slow. It took about 10 hours. I imagine it would have taken a lot less time had I gotten the Thunderbolt.
Yes, but you said something else that your coworkers had recommended, and then I had said yes, that I recommend it as well. What I was recommending was the Thunderbolt cable. It was not the Thunderbolt cable that your coworkers were recommending.
No, they were recommending extending the Apple Care coverage because like apparently it's very convenient. They like I mean they would ask any questions, just anything that's wrong, they will basically replace your whole computer if need be.
Yep, it's pretty awesome. Yeah, the Thunderbolt cable I use for when I've like edited on the laptop as far as I can. I just plug it into my main computer and transfer everything over. It takes like no time.
Well, I certainly learned that lesson the hard way. I picked up the computer at 2 o'clock and was just gone from work for the rest of the day because like I started transferring the files and it freezes up both of the computers, so I can't like use either one of them. I felt so naked and helpless.
Yeah.
That's why there's no Zelda from last night. I think, when was the last time what probably Friday? Saturday. No, Saturday I did not. Saturday I was diligent, or I wasn't working on the rag tool. I was drawing a profile pic after a profile pic. And then instead, yeah, okay, I came prepared with an excuse for why I did not play Zelda on Saturday. I watched, yeah, this was gonna be one of my stuff, but thanks for reminding me.
Okay.
Nuremberg. The new Netflix film. It stars Michael Shannon and Russell Crowe. Some others whose names I'm forgetting. But yeah, it's I think they are making. I think the movie does make points that are relevant to today and America's slow descent into autocracy. But even just like aside from those, what some may consider woke messages embedded in this film, there's just a lot about the Nuremberg trials that I did not know. Like the fact that an international tribunal like this had never been assembled before. Like so many laws, so many like international sort of norms were established for the first time with this like several of the Allied forces rounded up the remaining high command of the SS and put them on trial in front of the world. Just very interesting stuff. Oh, and one of the main guys is played by who's the guy from Mr. Robot, who's also Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, Rami Malek?
Yep, he's in it as well. He plays the psychiatrist who is like charged, is tasked with keeping these SS people from killing themselves before trial, because that's a huge risk. Like there's so many measures that they take to prevent these people from killing themselves. And yeah, the Russell Crowe plays like the main, like the top SS guy, like impassioned speech about how, you know, he's very sorry for the events that took place, but he will not apologize for things that were out of his jurisdiction that his colleagues may have done, blah, blah, blah. And talks about why he believed in Hitler's vision, and it was all about restoring Germany to its former glory. And, you know, that's about as close as they come to mimicking the Make America Great Again, but I think the parallels were just like dripping from it. I mean, are you disagreeing? Are you thinking I'm connecting dots where there were none to be connected?
Oh no, I'm almost guaranteeing you that Hollywood definitely inserted those parallels. I'm saying I don't necessarily agree those parallels are accurate, but
Okay, well, I feel like, let me ask you this. Do you think these parallels are more accurate than you might have thought 6 months ago when Trump assumed the presidency?
no.
No? Have you been present for any of the conversations you and I have had in this last 6 months? I take that back, that was me.
I think he's populist, and I don't think that's good, but authoritarian is really hard for me to get behind. Fascist is definitely hard for me to get behind. Authoritarian is easier than fascist. Fascist just is, stop playing with that word, because it means nothing when you don't attribute it to legitimate fascists.
Well, and I think he has more, he's taken more actions that can be construed as authoritarian than any other president, including trying to single-handedly overturn the results of a free and fair election. But we don't have to relitigate that right now.
Again, Jack Brett, I don't think he tried to. I think he took advantage of a situation that happened. Other than the big collectors, that one for sure. And I am very interested to hear somebody question Trump about I got this, call with the Georgia Secretary of State.
Nailed it.
Yes, I think that there's some interesting things I'd love for him to talk about, but I don't think he organized it. I don't think he plotted for it. I don't think he gathered people in order to do this thing. I think he took advantage of the situation.
That'd be true of January 6th, but like honestly, even if we only agree on the fake electors thing, that seems authoritarian enough on
That
its
would
own.
be,
Like,
yes,
even
one of the things that I would point to if you're going to say, yeah, authoritarian, then yes, that definitely is an authoritarian leaning thing. But that's one out of many, many other things that do not line up with it. In my opinion.
Okay.
Terrible person still. Don't like him. Think he should not be president.
Yeah, if you're listening, if you're tuning in this week, Donald
This
Trump,
is the first
you're
time.
at president. This is our But, yeah, we didn't even like agree to go political yet.
We did it. It's okay. It's totally fine. Real quickly though, half your face is covered by your microphone.
Is that not usually the case?
If it is, I don't like it.
Okay. Yeah, no, we'll do that. Ordering dinner, that's why I'm paused. Can you still hear me okay?
Less easily, but yes.
Don't like that one.
Can you just turn up the input or whatever?
Check. Too much?
Yes, way too much.
Check. check. Am I back in the zone?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, much better, thank you.
Cool. You betcha. Okay. Oh yeah, that was just a side note that my mic was covering the thing. Any other show related things?
I don't know, but now I can hear like literally everything you do with your hands, so I don't know.
Oh, I turned it up a bit too much, turned the sensitivity up too much, turning it down a little bit. Can you still hear anything I'm doing with my hands?
Yes, very much so.
Check,
Maybe you
check.
point the microphone at your face.
I would think after years of playing in a band, this would all just be second nature to me.
This is considerably better.
Okay. Okay, good. I'll have to remember this configuration.
Although
And
you're
I'm
still
covered again.
kinda covered, but yeah. Sound wise, I can hear you much better.
Okay. Check. Boom.
Yes. So I have one action item.
Please.
So I have one action item.
Mhm.
I got a boilerplate email back from Lindsey Graham.
Oh, back, as in you emailed him first?
Right, remember how I emailed my representatives about the Virginia's law?
I'll be damned. Wow.
Yeah, and I got a email back from Lindsey Graham. It was extremely boilerplate and not at all, did not at all address any of the things that I said. And now I'm getting unsolicited campaign emails from Lindsey Graham.
That is.
What is going on with that? Like, you gotta know that's not gonna help you. Like, I wasn't gonna vote for you anyway, but I'm extra not gonna vote for you now.
Remind me what you asked in your email.
I said, I'm urging you to support and co-sponsor Virginia's law, the new federal legislation, lottie. I said, this is not a partisan issue. Voting against this will earn your primary opponent my vote the next time you're up for election.
And remind me what the legislation is, or what the law is that he's supposed to support.
Virginia's law?
Oh, Virginia's law. Virginia Dufresne's law. Oh, I got it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my bad.
Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I got that back from Lindsey Graham, but I did get a phone call from an aide in Tim Scott's office,
Oh,
which is interesting.
he is he was one of, in the pool of VP candidates in the Trump Veep stakes that J.D. Vance would end up winning. I recall that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And yeah, I recall he's from your state because like he had to turn against Nikki Haley basically to get this backing by Trump. He's a senator. He's a
Even Lindsey Graham are the two senators from my state.
That makes sense. So you're wow. So maybe there's an LLM somewhere that is going through Lindsey Graham's emails and figuring out who has asked who is like. I mean, your email wasn't really negative. It was just urging him to support things. You weren't like bad mouthing him, or you were just like, yeah, you were urging him to support the thing, but you weren't implying that he wasn't going to support it, right?
No, I said, support this or I won't vote for you.
Oh.
He doesn't have to know I wouldn't vote for him anyway.
Yeah.
But I would actively vote against him in the primary, which I shall be doing on June 9th.
So he did not vote Virginia's law?
I don't know yet, but I'm already going to vote against it regardless.
Good riddance.
Yeah, but then then I got a phone call from Tim Scott's office, which I didn't answer because I never answer phone numbers that I don't know.
Yeah.
So the person left a message saying, hey, I just wanted to call and talk to you about the email that you sent to Tim Scott's office. And I was like, okay. Yeah.
But you didn't send an email to Tim Scott's office?
I did. No, I sent an email to
Oh, you
Tim
did?
Scott's office. I didn't answer the phone when he called.
Oh, I see,
Or
okay, I
when
didn't.
the aide called or whatever it was.
Okay, you wrote both of your senators to urge their support for Virginia's bill. You got it. Okay, I didn't put that together, and yeah, I was thinking that like somehow Tim Scott's office had gotten your email from Lindsey Graham's email list.
No. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Spare short. See if you can. God, I get a lot of spam calls from Anthony Schmidt.
You're not a Schmidt supporter?
I don't know who Anthony Schmidt is. It's a business line of credit that they keep asking me about.
Well, they say if you're using anyone other than Anthony for your loan office needs, you don't know Schmidt.
Where is this? When was this? Tax resolution oversight, that's not it. God bless God bless Apple in general. Just perfect. I found it just by typing in the search bar. That's it. That's all it is.
Wow.
Kind of impressed, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that sounded like an actual human who might actually be interested in hearing your thoughts on Virginia's law.
Yeah, and they messed up enough that I figure it's actually probably not AI.
Yeah. Unless it's a real sophisticated humanization
Yeah.
filter that they put on it.
Yeah, and I would love to talk about it for sure. I'm still skeptical that I got a call from Tim Scott's office.
Yeah, I don't know how I would respond to that. I mean, yeah, and I wonder what his nuts has to say about Tim Scott's position on this matter.
I'd love to know, yeah. Because I bet I already know their arguments, and I already know why I'm going to tell you they're bullshit, so.
I waste an afternoon returning this phone call.
Maybe I'll, I don't know.
If you do, you should report it.
Oh, I thought, yes, 1,000%. Separately, I tried to type in Broco's basilisk in the rag, and it did not come back with anything.
Nothing. Did you have just the word basilisk?
That's the first thing I tried was just the word basilisk.
Either a transcription error. Well, no, it should like figure out from context. Well, I don't know.
I did take a screenshot of the I thought I'd take it. Yes, there it is. Oh no. That's the one I should have sent to you to show why the dark mode wasn't working. YC, period. Second
Yeah.
one is with the capital yes, like, and the third one is of course. I don't get it.
Yeah, so we must not have, oh wait, here we go. Unless this was, no, this was from, October of 2025. I just typed in, Roko's Basilisk, and I'm seeing, yeah, this one. Are you typing in the assistant?
Yes. No, I'm typing into the chat window.
Or, yeah, the chat window that you open up from the bottom right corner.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm doing the same thing, and I just typed in Roko's Basilisk, and it did give me, there's at least one, oh, there's two, I see, there's one from, oh, the other one was from last week.
Right.
Oh, and there's some, yeah, there's two mentions of Roko's Basilisk last week, but there's also one from 10:06. You want me to just share screen and just show you what I'm seeing?
No, I would just put in ROKO /Rodriguez Basilisk.
Mm-hmm.
It takes considerably longer for me. Here we go, let's see. I got NPR, Buzz Buzz Buzz, Sibley, Sweaty Balls. I got a bird. Is that in the ski? It's a cardinal. The Zora one is an elephant. None of these talk about Roko's Basilisk. Oh wait. Okay. There's one where it's spelled ROCOS and then BACILLUS.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's from the last time that we actually talked about it.
So you're not seeing the 10:06,
The one I
Of course
see
not.
from 10:06 is the NPR Buzz 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 Siblings, Sweaty Balls.
interesting.
Don't know what that is. I'm gonna have to play that now.
Yeah, good.
Did you hear any of that?
No, but I remember it.
I don't.
I thought that was more recently than, or maybe I do that a lot.
I don't know.
Or maybe I just listened to it recently.
For some, that's what's coming up for October 6th for me.
It's weird, yeah. The one, my clip starts at 2020. It's spelled like this in the transcript from that day.
Gotcha. So on October 6th, we talked about it.
Yes. Oh yeah, and I think I might have been talking about Elon Musk or something, and it was just like an offhanded reference, like the subject of this conversation wasn't Roko's Basilisk. I just figured it was enough of a household name that I just included that. So yeah, it wasn't centered around that concept, but I could have sworn that I at least mentioned it. But yeah, Roko's Basilisk being the theory that is said to drive you insane once you know about it. So look it up if you want to know about it. We won't describe it in much detail here.
Yeah. What's all of my non-political stuff and things?
Okay, I think I just had one more non-political, and that was
No, I did have one more non-political. Go ahead.
I I listened to last week's episode, and I think I might know why we remember the ChatGPT story differently in terms of like which of us introduced the other to it. Because I do remember when we were sciencing it, like it was your idea to do this experiment where so it was the Battle of Gettysburg or the Battle of Antietam or some Civil War battle that I had been getting it to describe in a Cormac McCarthy voice, and then you said, let's have it describe the same thing but in a Teletubby voice.
Yeah.
And let's do the same thing in a Robin Williams voice. And like, I remember I had been like, let's change it, let's change the subject matter, like let's change it to this other battle or something, and you were like, no, let's like science it. And I remember thinking, that's a really good idea. That could be the flash of genius that you brought to the table that you remember having. I just, I don't know.
Well, that's not the thing I remember having. The thing I remember is the feeling of introducing you to it, or the thing I remember is the feeling of being surprised that I was introducing you to the concept.
Mm.
Because normally these are things that you tell me about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I seem to remember you opening an account like a few days after we had played with it, but I don't know, could be wrong.
I swear we jumped universes is the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
Either that or I'm thinking of a different life-altering technological advancement that I introduced you to.
Open world gaming.
No. And me. It's okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. When he's on Universe Up.
Basically, that's what I'm going to. Cause like I trust your memory a lot more than mine, usually. I try to anyways, at least I've learned to. But this one I just feel like, so that feeling of surprise is the thing that's catching me up, but it might have been a different thing I was introducing you to that I remember the surprise feeling from.
I mean, those moments I'm sure have happened. I'm pretty conservative, small C brained, in that I like to keep things the same, and you know, ChatGPT was such a huge thing, like such a disruptor. I can see it taking a long time for me to check out something like that, but yeah, as you say, my memory is typically pretty accurate, and I do have a pretty vivid account of the first thing that I asked to ChatGPT.
But didn't you say the first thing you asked was while we were talking to me about it? No, because you're talking about the Taylor Swift song, right?
Yeah, I was just the query that I thought of was write the lyrics to a Taylor Swift song called "You Ruined Me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I could have sworn that last week when we were talking about that, and I asked some question that it was implied that it was in that conversation we were having about it with the Teletubbies. I'll go back and listen to that.
Okay. Because the way I remember it, I was like I had already been scolded once by the time we JJQT'd that night and played with it together, because I had tried to get it to write a Cormac McCarthy rendition of the assault on the on the Capitol on January 6th. Because I remember before our session, I had already been scolded at least once by it, or twice, I think. Once because as soon as I got a hold of this thing and saw that it could write Taylor Swift lyrics, of course my brain immediately went to, will it do fetish like bench material for me. It would not. And it would also not do a Cormac McCarthy rendition of the January 6th assault on the Capitol, because of like that it could be construed as taking one side or the other, and like it said that the January 6th assault was an important breach of democracy and should be treated with the utmost respect. Like, it really, let me have it in terms of don't do this on our platform.
Yeah.
And I remember all that taking place, and I remember because like I had already been doing the Cormac McCarthy experiments, and that was when I read you the Civil War rendition, which you then had the idea to make a Teletubbies version of, and a Robin Williams version of too. So yeah, this is why maybe you did recommend it to me. Maybe like that session where we played with it was not your first time on the platform. I mean, I remember I was the one submitting the queries, but
yeah, I remember that being the thing.
you had already been playing with it before that session?
I remember feeling like I had, yes.
Okay.
But
Because I do remember like the ChatGPT was in the news, as like once it became available, it was all over the news, because of how fast, its subscription base had grown, faster than any other, software product in history.
But
Yeah.
did you see it in the news because I had told you about it and then you went to look at it, or because we talked about it and Apple doesn't put stuff in your news feed, algorithm stuff, or?
I mean, it was in the headline news. Like, I watch the headlines just about every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sure that's the first time you remember hearing about it?
I'm not sure, but I do remember that piquing my interest. Like, oh, what is this all about?
See, this is okay. Let's see if this pieces together. To me, it was an in passing thing in a session beforehand where I said, "Have you heard of this thing, ChatGPT? Apparently, it does X," and you were like, "No, it's this," and it was something basically where I'm just like, "Oh, you need to go check it out next time." We didn't like talk about it extensively, and then I feel like the next time we came back, then you told me about the Taylor Swift thing and the general thing, and et cetera, et cetera.
That could be the case.
That's how I'm remembering it. But again, it could just be that I told somebody else about ChatGPT first, and that's the surprise feeling I have.
Could be. We'll know for sure when we did.
We will. I'm sure of it.
Anyway, what was your other non-political stuff then?
Death has caught a case of Chuck Norris.
God rest his soul. Yeah, and you just know that, I mean, once that happened, just knew that the internet would be exploding with new Chuck Norris jokes related to his death. But I'm sure that I don't find it in poor taste. Like he was a fan of Chuck Norris jokes. I remember a
Yes.
clip of him reading his favorites.
And in any case, all the jokes are basically about Chuck Norris being bored with life and taking Death's job. Like, it's still in favor of Chuck Norris.
Yeah. It's not making fun of. It's not like making light of
Yeah.
his passing.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of making light of people's passings,
oh God. I didn't read the exact comment. I think I know what you're talking about though.
I'm in the total loss.
What did he say?
I'm glad he's dead.
Wow. Just what, came right out and said it like that, huh?
Yeah. And there's one other piece of it. Let's see. Where is it? That's not it. Hold on. Maybe just have these things prepared in order. Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. President Donald J. Trump. He's signing his tweets, which is weird. His team tweets.
Thank you for your attention on this matter. TJT POTUS. Yeah, that reminds me of that Game of Thrones clip where Joffrey's like, I'm the king! And Tywin is like, a man who must constantly announce, I'm the king, is no true king.
Yeah. That tweet, or that particular concept reminds me of Captain Holt signing all of his text messages with Captain Holt.
Sincerely, Captain. Because old people don't know, yeah, the joke being old people don't know how texting works. Yeah, all I saw was like the clickbait headline. I mean, I saw, so like, I hadn't logged on to YouTube in a few hours, so I saw one story that was from CNN, former FBI director and special counsel Robert Mueller dies at age 81, and then two stories over. Doofy McDipshit weighs in on Robert Mueller's death, of course, and I, did not click on that other one. Figured I'll hear about this eventually. It's like, of course he said something. Why wouldn't he say something? He always says something.
Yeah. And
yeah, I mean, nothing but respect for Robert Mueller. I do have my criticisms of the way he released the Mueller report. Really kind of left it open to enough interpretation to where Trump was able to just like stand up and claim a complete exoneration, no collusion, witch hunt over, yay, which was not an accurate reflection of Robert Mueller's findings in the least. But it's not like Robert Mueller went on, or not like Robert Mueller has a Twitter presence that he is constantly letting everybody know the latest thought in his brain. He just sent a notarized letter directly to the Attorney General. He just sent a notarized letter directly to the Attorney General Barr at the time, who had mischaracterized the report in the one-page summary that essentially said no collusion, no obstruction, and chewed him out for having completely mischaracterized his findings. But it's not like anyone on the Fox News audience ever learned of this letter of reprimand, so who cares?
who got the letter of reprimand?
Former Attorney General Bill Barr, after, the Mueller probe was started when Donald Trump fired his then FBI Director James Comey for refusing
Why don't you
to
just
let
keep it
Michael
moving?
Flynn go, as it were.
I mean, you've been staring at it this whole time and it becomes dick move for you to
Russia, and Donald
take
Trump
this
got
shit
into
from you.
alone. FBI Director Comey
dare to get credit for that.
suggested that he demands loyalty if Comey hopes to stay in his position, and hopes that he can see his way clear to letting Flynn
I'll tell him
go.
what I think.
And this not only did not result in Jim
There you
Comey
go.
dropping the investigation into Flynn, he also went ahead and appointed he did not appoint a special counsel at that time. He became very suspicious and committed more resources to investigating Donald Trump's ties to Russia, and pretty logical move, I would say, having given the very unusual proposition he was just given. But only shortly after that, he was fired via public tweet, like a very humiliating way to fire the FBI director. Like Comey thought it was a joke when he saw the news story, and that's how he learned that his services would no longer be required. But that action was what caused, what triggered like his deputy to appoint Special Counsel Robert Mueller to investigate Donald Trump and his potential ties to Russia and a potential criminal conspiracy with Russia to help Donald Trump win the 2016 election.
Yeah, it is. You want it?
His
Take it,
report
take it,
found
take it, take it, take it.
he could not be held criminally liable for anything.
No, the language was confusing. So the two things that the probe was trying to prove were criminal conspiracy and obstruction of justice. In the case of criminal conspiracy, he found that while the Trump campaign did welcome help from Russian lawyers and people connected to the Kremlin in the form of Hillary email dumps by way of WikiLeaks, Donald Trump was aware of these things through his, or at least the people on the Trump campaign, including Don Jr., had meetings with these people, but there was not enough evidence that the Mueller probe found to prove that Kushner and Don Jr. knew that having these meetings and accepting this thing of value from a foreign adversary was illegal. He determined that there was not enough to prove the charge of criminal conspiracy, like
Against Trump.
Against Trump, yeah. The phrase that Trump repeats is "no collusion," and I mean he has legal basis to say that, I guess, because collusion is not a legal term that was part of any investigation. Like the charge was criminal conspiracy. He did not prove that. But as far as collusion, I mean, if we just think of collaboration or coordination of any kind with a foreign. Sorry, did that look? I hate junk calls so much. I'm in the middle of my favorite activity. Like, yeah, I just have no forgiveness.
I love it. It's great. I'm keeping that in.
He was not able to prove criminal conspiracy, but like if we think of collusion as just collaboration, just like accepting help, I would say that yeah, there was collusion.
Well, there's a very specific definition of collusion, and it's not that broad, I thought.
I mean, not a legal definition, or at least that wasn't the charge that Robert Mueller was trying to prove.
Collusion?
Yeah, no, it was criminal conspiracy, which is what he did not find sufficient evidence for.
No sufficient evidence for criminal conspiracy. What was the other thing?
Obstruction of justice. And that's where this was the finding in the Mueller report that was poorly worded in my opinion, but it was very carefully worded because like the Mueller team followed the DOJ statute that a sitting president cannot be charged with a crime, and Mueller interpreted that as he also cannot be formally accused of a crime because like if he does put out this document that says 8 counts of obstruction of justice, we're not going to charge him, but we found evidence of 8 counts of obstruction of justice. That would put him by like Donald Trump's rights as a citizen, that would put him in a position to have to defend himself. Just having Donald Trump personally, as long as there wasn't going to be any, charges brought his way, I don't know that he would care much, about like defending himself. He would just, he would find some way to spin the fact that they were charging him into, I'm completely innocent, total exoneration, whatever. He just like, makes up whatever story he wants, but like, the, finding in the Mueller report that was, poorly phrased was, if we found sufficient evidence to exonerate Trump, we would state that. If we found that he was for sure not guilty of a crime, we would so state. We are not able to make that statement. So he is not guilty of a crime, apparently, and yes, the evidence lays out, at least 8, actions that he took, including, attempting to fire Bob Mueller himself, through his, then, presidential counsel, Don McGahn, but McGahn refused, but that still, goes down as evidence of obstruction of justice. You have a question? Yes.
Yeah, real quick, so, let me just make sure I understand properly. Robert Mueller said, on the, not the count, the report on the investigation into the second thing, which was the second thing?
Obstruction of justice.
Obstruction of justice, obstruction of justice. He said, we could not find enough evidence to bring this to trial, but we could also not find enough evidence to say he's innocent beyond a reasonable doubt. Is that accurate?
No, because he absolutely did find enough evidence that there could be a trial, just not while Trump was in office.
Mueller, not Jack Smith.
Or Mueller, sorry, yeah. Did I say Jack Smith? Sorry, yeah.
No, but I thought the one that Jack Smith brought is the one that definitely did, he just wasn't doing it because Trump was president.
No, Jack Smith was appointed while Trump was not president, and he was given, the ability to, put this evidence before a grand jury and get an indictment, which he did. Donald Trump was indicted, but the trials didn't end up happening, because, the Trump's legal team tied it up in the Supreme Court by like just a constant appeal process to run out the clock before the election.
That's for Robert Mueller's thing, not Jack Smith's thing?
That's for Jack Smith.
Okay, I'm talking about Robert Mueller's thing, so the
Yes.
obstruction of justice, there was not sufficient evidence to bring the obstruction of justice to a charge.
There was, just
So
not
he
while
did
Trump
charge
was president. No, he did not, because he was president at the time of the Mueller probe.
Okay, so then, once Trump was out of office, why did that not get taken back up?
That is a very good question, because Mueller himself, when he was, brought before Congress to talk about the findings of the Mueller probe, he was asked, like, could these charges be brought after Trump took office? And Mueller said, in certain terms, yes, it could.
So there are 4 years between the time that Robert Mueller found this and the time that Trump became president for a second time. And
Indeed.
nobody continued with that investigation.
I mean, the evidence was right there in the report. We wouldn't even have to investigate anything. We would just have, you could turn that Mueller report straight into an indictment. But the problem, as I'm not in any of these legal, circles, but
No, sir.
I would guess that there was, so many scandals that happened since then at this point. Like, once Trump left office, I mean, he left kicking and screaming about a stolen election, and he took many actions to prevent Joe Biden from assuming office. That would probably be a much bigger deal to like any prosecutor or seeker of justice. I would imagine this was a bigger fish to fry situation. I mean, I personally think that
Bigger fish to fry.
like the January 6th and the attempts to overturn the election and the classified documents case.
How is that a bigger fish to fry if you already have enough evidence to put him on trial for obstruction of justice?
Bigger fish to fry is in like the more, the steeper charge, like the more significant breach of democracy.
Yeah, but that would take years worth of evidence gathered. Why not do that while you've already charged him with obstruction of justice? Get
These
that
are-
going while you do all the other stuff.
These are valid, legitimate questions that I also have for these people who did not bring these charges.
I'd like to ask the wise women question.
Please do.
Tell me why, when Biden became president in 2021, the Robert Mueller obstruction of justice report
Yeah, I think
was
that
not
was
picked back
Bezos.
up and dug into since Donald Trump was no longer president. The short answer is that Biden's DOJ did not pick up the Mueller obstruction issue mainly because the core legal bottleneck was still there. DOJ's longstanding policy said a sitting president should not be indicted, and Mueller had already declined to make a traditional prosecution judgment while Trump was in office. Once Trump left office, prosecutors still had to decide whether there was enough evidence to justify a new criminal case under ordinary DOJ standards, and the department never publicly took that step. So let's see then. A big reason the case was not simply resumed is that Mueller operated under DOJ's Office of Legal Counsel view that a sitting president cannot be indicted, which pushed the question towards Congress while Trump was in office. That meant the obstruction issue was partly left unresolved as a criminal matter, and DOJ later had to. We know that. We already know that. We want to know why. That's not a legal obstacle anymore. Once he becomes no longer sitting president, that is not a legal obstacle.
I mean, I think they said like the Biden DOJ just never took the step of evaluating whether to take these charges back up, whether to reopen the case now that he can be criminally charged.
By 2021, the Biden administration was also facing a crowded agenda and likely wanted to avoid turning DOJ into a vehicle for relitigating Trump-era politics unless there was a clean prosecutorial path. But as far as anyone's concerned, there was a clean prosecutorial path with all of the evidence that Robert Mueller had gathered.
I would say that that would be true if it were not a former president. Like even the charge that Jack Smith brought was controversial in the sense that no president had ever been charged with a federal, no former president has ever been indicted for a federal crime before. So like, I wouldn't say that there was a clear prosecutorial path just because like the president is the exception to everything. Like,
But that whole situation wasn't even brought up until much later. I thought. The Supreme Court ruled on whether or not you can, the Supreme Court ruled on whether or not the president can be held responsible for things they did under the president. Isn't that what we're talking about? Is that really?
that was one of the appeals that the Trump legal team made to the Supreme Court, in my opinion, to run out the clock, to like tie up the Jack Smith case in the legal system, so that he could you know, when the election before before it ever saw the inside of a courtroom. But the argument from this legal team is that a president, any action, the argument from the Trump legal team was essentially any part of the Jack Smith indictment that covers a action that could have been taken in the line of presidential duty should not be criminally chargeable, because essentially just like the rules are different, like we grant the leader of the free world a certain amount of leeway when it comes to interpretation of his official duties, I guess. I think it's nonsensical, but I mean it was enough for the Supreme Court justices to vote in his favor. Go ahead.
The charge of obstruction of justice, what piece of justice was he obstructing again? Or what does he have said to have been obstructing?
The Mueller probe that was looking into his potential ties with Russia. He took many actions to impede the investigation, to tamper with witnesses, and even to try to end the probe by firing Mueller himself.
Okay. So, because that was done while Donald Trump was president, it could be argued that the Supreme Court, whether or not a president can be, no, something similar. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I do, and that's an interesting point, because like I'm not sure if that would be an obstacle if today, since that Supreme Court ruling that essentially gives presidential immunity for actions taken in the line of duty that exists today, if that would be an obstacle to actually getting the evidence from the Mueller probe in front of a grand jury for a trial. That wouldn't have been an obstacle before that Supreme Court ruling, which as I remember, that Supreme Court ruling happened like just like a few months before the November election, the 2024 election. So like,
Yeah, so he had
there
3
was
years.
3 years
Well, that
before
was-
that was even a thing. But of course, like I imagine you had the same legal team defending him, or he probably would have had like some of the same lawyers defending him in the case of the Mueller probe, had that been criminally charged, as he did for the Jack Smith indictment. So they probably would have made the same argument that would have gone before the exact same Supreme Court justices and had the exact same outcome. But had Merrick Garland not been the one in charge of bringing these cases, perhaps they would have been done much more speedily, and we would have these answers.
So then am I correct then in saying that even after Trump leaves office, he now has presidential immunity from all of the things that Robert Mueller has in his report?
No.
No?
Okay. From your theory, well, yeah, I don't know. I would have to consult a lawyer as to what pieces of evidence in the obstruction of justice case could be considered part of the line of presidential duty. Like, as far as when it comes to actions taken in the line of presidential duty, I don't see how firing a special counsel who is investigating you could ever, in a million years, be considered in the line of presidential duty, given that like the FBI and or the DOJ, and given that the DOJ and the executive branch are supposed to be two separate independent entities. Like the president is able to appoint the attorney general, and the FBI is, but like traditionally it's one of those kind of things that is a norm. It's not written into law, but we just never expected to have a president who would, eat norms for breakfast, as it were.
We got off track though.
Yes, we did, I think this started about Mueller and, rest his
Yeah,
soul,
so-
and,
Obstruction case, Mueller's saying he's got plenty of evidence to bring this to trial. But he can't right now because Trump is president. Biden becomes president. And they don't pick it back up again due to whatever reasons, we're not sure. And then Supreme Court ruling in 2024, we don't know if that affects the Robert Mueller report, correct?
correct, we would need a lawyer to weigh in on that. Or an LLM acting like a lawyer. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. Okay, so the evidence didn't make much. Mueller had hit the sitting president wall, and once Trump became a former president, DOJ still had to decide anew whether the evidence tying institutional trade-offs justified prosecution. They apparently decided not to make that move. And they decided not to make that move because they reviewed the evidence and didn't find a clear path to prosecution, question mark?
Sorry about that, what you got for me?
Give me a moment, I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
I didn't find,
Okay, so. No, you left it. Okay, the released materials show DOJ lawyers and Barr say Mueller's report did not identify sufficient evidence to charge an obstruction offense under the view of the law, especially because there was no underlying charged crime, and because the report did not make a traditional prosecutorial judgment. So, it sounds like Mueller made a report that said, no, we can't charge him with this, but,
Well, okay, it said like, as the sitting president, we cannot charge him, not that these are, actions are not chargeable.
but because he didn't make that prosecutorial judgment specifically,
And Barr used that as, a reason to, suggest that the case is not chargeable because of the careful language that, Mueller chose, in avoiding making a prosecutorial recommendation.
yeah, so I guess I wonder what the point of that wording was, because if just making the prosecutorial judgment doesn't in and of itself activate an investigation, then why wouldn't you make that prosecutorial judgment and acknowledge that because he's the sitting president, we can't do anything about this right now, basically, is my question.
I would have been much more aggressive, I would have been much less careful in my interpretation of the DOJ statute that a sitting president cannot be charged with a crime. I would like to think that my language be clear, like, yes, he is, there's compelling evidence of at least eight counts of obstruction of justice, and it is the opinion of this special counsel that he would be in jail if he were not the president, and should be.
Yeah, exactly, just like Jack Smith did.
I mean,
So because
Jack's-
he didn't do that, is a large part of the reason why. So I'm wondering why he didn't do that.
that's Barr's stated reason for not bringing charges, but like Barr was never gonna do anything that Donald Trump. Well, okay.
Wasn't Barr there when Mueller was?
Yeah, Barr was the Attorney General in power when the Mueller report came out, so it was he was empowered to filter that report for the public. Like it was through Bill Barr, then Attorney General, that we heard Mueller's findings for the first time. Like the full report was later released, but like it got to go through Barr, and of course the way he worded it gave Donald Trump 24 hours to take a victory lap and claim no collusion, no obstruction. That's all most people heard. If that was the story you wanted, then you got it, and you weren't gonna pay attention to the actual full report that followed. That's, as I see it, just the way he plays this game.
But the full report that followed didn't say that were this not an issue, I would absolutely move forward with charging him.
No, and I think it should have. I'd like to think that in his position, I would have thrown out that norm. I would know that, or I would treat Donald Trump like a different sort of animal, that like he doesn't play by the rules, so or he's not going to respect norms, so we can not respect them either in this case. I know it's just such an unusual thing for a president to have such flagrantly, to just commit such flagrantly illegal behavior like all the time. So like he has to be treated differently. We have to grade him on a curve.
There's a lot there, hold on. Robert Mueller cannot say in his written report, he will not be excused.
Please.
Okay, you're excused.
Thanks.
Robert Mueller writes a report that says, and this is before he's fired, or no, it has to be before he's fired, right?
Mueller was never fired. Donald Trump tried to fire him by telling his White House counsel, Don McGahn, fire Mueller, let me know when it's done. And Don McGahn did not fire Mueller. He was one of the good ones, as I see it.
He did not fire Robert Mueller.
Correct.
So why wasn't he fired?
Don McGahn. I think he threatened that he would resign if Donald Trump insisted on this order, and I think Don McGahn threatened to resign and bring a lot of other White House counsel staff with him, like high-ranking people that like would. Donald Trump is afraid of the headlines of mass resignations.
Yeah, more people need to use that.
I agree.
Like, seriously, y'all, come on. We need more people who are willing to lose their job over doing the right thing. Please and thank you.
I mean,
Hey, ooh, for any of you aspiring senators that are currently just cabinet advisory people,
requires unquestioning loyalty, which, as we uncovered last week, or so we say,
Yeah, but
it
you can
is.
say, I have unquestioning loyalty, you can tell him that, and then
Okay, new plan, I'm not
This is your
gonna
thing.
search for members anymore.
But like as,
I'm gonna go get it.
sure, but like as we figured out a couple of weeks ago, or at least we think we figured out, in order to be in trust cabinet, he has to know that he can trust you.
Here I start my dinner.
You.
Oh. Don't worry, we'll get this all planned. Okay, so. Robert Mueller files a report, goes next door, finds evidence to move forward with the prosecution. What it does say is,
I do not have enough evidence to move forward.
yes, which, in my opinion, is a super douche move for sure. No.
Thank
It
you.
is a super douche of a move because you're basically saying we can't put those words on literally anyone else. If someone said in the news, we don't not have enough evidence to move forward with prosecution against Jack Brett. Since it's innocent until proven guilty, you've erased that part of it, I guess. Like,
It just lives in some,
it feels unethical.
yeah, and I really don't know what the right answer would have been. I mean, he's got many more years of federal prosecutorial experience than I do.
Yeah.
With, with a total of some, so why he maybe like it's just way above my pay grade, why he might have made this decision, but as I see it, he's very by the book. He's just like an Eagle Scout who doesn't want to shatter the norm. That it's just bringing charges against a president, serving or otherwise, is just unprecedented in history. He wasn't going to be able to do it.
I vehemently disagree. I think if you're Mueller and you're already ballsy enough to investigate Trump in the first place, and you leave that open-ended, you know what you're doing.
I think so too, yeah.
And you have made it ambiguous.
Yeah.
And that is the reason why what we're supposed to say is we don't have enough evidence to move forward. That is what you're supposed to say. If you say we don't have enough evidence to move forward, but there's still a shit ton of evidence, then you're not actually saying we don't have enough evidence to move forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does in a way. Like it's just a non-statement statement. He could have breathed into a microphone for 20 minutes and the same amount of information would come across.
So beautiful.
I think I got that joke from a John Oliver past, but I can't remember the exact scenario.
So my point is, Robert Mueller's not afraid of Donald Trump.
Oh, I think I think that is up for debate because we know that Donald Trump did try to contact Mueller. We don't know if they ever spoke during the Mueller program. Donald Trump, I'm not sure if he contacted Mueller because he thought, once he sees that I'm a good guy, once I get him in a room and turn on the salesman charm, he'll he'll just, see that I've got nothing to hide and drop all these charges, or like he'll stop, looking into my communications with Russia, or if he had a more sinister motive in mind, like actual intimidation. I mean, some of the speculation out there is that, he was spooked, Mueller was spooked, somehow by Trump. I mean, that's not proven, that's not something I should give much oxygen to, but like, even watching Mueller's performance, when he was brought before Congress to answer questions about the probe, he seemed very timid, very nervous, more like, unsure than I would have pictured, you know, all the photos throughout the Mueller probe of him just, you know, being like the, square-jawed, quintessential lawman that isn't afraid of anything. You know, that's how I always saw him until this, rather feeble performance in front of Congress. I don't know if that means he was intimidated or was just old. I mean, he died at 81. That's around the life expectancy, I guess.
When we do the intro for this, it should be something like Robert Mueller is back in the headlines. So we go on a deep dive down Robert Mueller, not that, but something like that. I just want to put it in there for it to have.
Alright.
Okay. Sealer time.
Okay.
Hold on. Sealer time. James Comey looking into Donald Trump over some shit. Two pieces of shit in particular. One is an obstruction of justice, and one is a collusion, conspiracy to something.
Yeah, just, I'm not sure
It's
the,
conspiracy,
yeah, criminal conspiracy.
criminal conspiracy. These are the two. James Comey, or am I not right?
That's the Mueller probe. Those were the two charges that Robert Mueller was trying to prove. James Comey was the one who was fired, and that is the action to start the Mueller probe.
Gotcha. And James Comey was fired though because he was looking into Donald Trump in some way. What was that way again?
I'm not sure, like, what all his, investigation into potential ties with Russia, what that entailed at the time. But I think his refusal to drop the Flynn investigation, like, Michael Flynn being Donald Trump's national security advisor appointee, Trump was told that he was, under investigation. He was warned, like, by someone from the Obama team, maybe it was Obama himself, that this guy, your pick for national security advisor, is under investigation, so he might not be the best pick to be your national security advisor. And so, like, Trump then took Comey into a room and suggested very strongly that he should drop.
Drop the investigation.
Yeah, and
But he didn't drop the investigation.
no,
So Trump fired him.
that is the general understanding. Yeah.
And the person who would have had to have fired Robert Mueller when he told him is the same person who did in fact fire James Comey.
No, Donald Trump fired James Comey through a tweet.
Gotcha. Then why wouldn't Trump fire Robert Mueller through the tweet?
Fingerprints, like, it looks bad if his own fingerprint is on the fire end of Robert Mueller, like his story is something to hide. So, like, maybe he intuitively knows a blatant act of obstruction of justice when he sees one.
But he would still be associated with it, like, you know,
himself off of email chains and calling, from a unidentified number, or whatever you call that. Like
On the
he's,
phone?
or like he'll like say, hey, can I use your phone, or hey, call this person and say this so that it's not like the call. I mean, that's not,
But like, if you wanted to fire Mueller that badly, why would you care if your fingerprints were on it or not? Cause he fired Cody that way.
and there were consequences for that, hence the Mueller probe. So like, what consequences might there be, if he is caught firing the special counsel? I'm not sure why he didn't, I mean, like,
But he would
that's
still be
not,
firing it, even if Robert Mueller, if that dude told Robert Mueller you were fired, that's still Donald Trump firing Robert Mueller.
I mean, assuming that Don McGahn would not, cover for him, would not say this was all my idea and like have some reason to explain to, Congress of why he was doing this. I mean, I think,
But we don't have that future alternate universe outcome to read over.
yeah, I was just thinking that, the deputy FBI director, whose name I can't remember, the one under Comey, like who became the acting director when Comey was fired, and he, opened the Mueller probe. I remember like before that, he was pressured by Trump into, oh yeah. Firing Comey. So like I remember the stated reason from, this is gonna drive me nuts, remembering the guy's name. Yeah.
Wise one.
Rosenstein, Brad, something,
Sounds
Rob,
interesting.
who was, FBI Director James Comey's deputy when he was fired. Was Andrew McCabe. Oh, okay, never mind. Who was, I remember there was somebody named Rosenstein. There was someone named I think, what was his role? You're thinking of Rod Rosenstein. He was the Deputy Attorney General at the Department of Justice, and he wrote the memo criticizing Comey's handling of the Clinton email investigation that the White House initially used as the formal justification for firing Comey. So this is an example of, Donald Trump pressuring someone to fire Comey, he fired via tweet, but like Rod Rosenstein was, tasked with, bringing like a formal reason for the firing that was like, that didn't involve, because I'm a reason for firing Comey that wasn't, related to Trump and any investigation into him. It was about, Hillary, which is very ironic given that like Comey opening the investigation into Hillary's emails is essentially, is largely believed to be, what got Trump elected in the first place. And now Rod Rosenstein is trying to, spin the story that, opening that investigation didn't sit right with Comey's treatment of Hillary didn't sit right with Trump, and he had to be fired.
Wait, so the official explanation for why James Comey was fired, James Comey?
I think they're interchangeable.
Oh god, that can't be real, why is that a thing? It's too confusing. James Comey was officially fired because he opened an investigation into Hillary's emails, and Trump was like, "That's not cool, man. You gotta go," and he was fired. Is this what you're telling me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Still man that properly?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
Exactly. It makes none of the sense, given that like most Republicans at the time that Comey opened the investigation were like, yeah, about time she was held accountable for the email thing, and then she lost the election, and then Comey needs to be fired. For what reason? Well, how about the Hillary's email thing?
Yeah. We wanna fire him because he's looking into Michael Flynn, but we can't fire him because he's looking into Michael Flynn. So we need a different reason. And the reason is he's looking into Hillary, and that's not cool.
Yeah, or let's say,
Which, ironically, not ironically, which is interesting because that appeases the Democrats, and the Democrats don't have to be seen raising a stink about that because he's covering for their girl.
that's what I think the play was. I mean, that's why I think that was the play that he chose, because the Dems would presumably have little recourse, even if they could see what was happening plain as day. How are they going to explain their objections to the press?
Yeah, that's still just not, yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't you? Okay, so then that's his official explanation for firing James Comey. Mueller steps into James Comey's big old claw numbers. Right?
He doesn't take over as the FBI director. No, Andrew McCabe takes over that apparently, but the special counsel is appointed. That's just like, it just so happens that Mueller was the former FBI director, and he was the first choice to be a special counsel to bring this case. I mean, Jack Smith was a special counsel. It's just like a federal prosecutor who works independently of the DOJ. It's just like they're appointed by the DOJ, but they're just like, go off, do your thing, bring charges if necessary.
Okay. And since that's not necessarily in the duties of the president, because his is just to appoint and fire the main guy.
I would argue that does not, that the action of firing a special counsel does not fall under the purview of the duties of the president.
Yeah, I think we litigated that right there.
Yeah.
Right?
I get
I'm
it.
no lawyer. I'll pop this into Perplexity and see what Perplexity says. Okay. Well, it's good that we went through and reiterated in detail, excruciating detail, the Robert Mueller stuff.
Yeah, it's always good to keep that stuff fresh. 'Cause
Yeah.
It happened, like it was a
It
big
happens.
deal.
That is a big deal. So Robert Mueller dies. Donald Trump says, "I'm glad he's dead." And we, first of all, go, "I'm sorry, you were yelling at people for saying they were glad Charlie Kirk was dead. So, the fuck, my man? Not my man.
Yeah, no.
What the fuck, dude?"
I mean, I don't even hear it anymore. Like, obviously the hypocrisy of this is not going to resonate with anyone that is, got the, what do I accuse them of having? I have the Trump demon derangement syndrome, is there a thing that they have that I guess,
Funny enough, I saw a friend post on Facebook that that's what Trump derangement syndrome actually is believing like he's telling you the truth and all these other things. It's like, yeah, there's
What?
a TDS to both sides. It's a horseshoe, right? And the TDS is a giant magnet, right? Swirling right here.
it's like one of it's a word like literally that means literally the antithesis of itself.
That's where I put Jay Fonda.
I like this one.
Robert Mueller did it dumb by not stating he believes there's enough to go forward. He just can't because X. In the way that Jack Smith did. Giant map.
I mean, I don't even hear it anymore. Like, obviously the hypocrisy of this is not going to resonate with anyone that has, got what do I accuse them of having? I have the Trump derangement syndrome. Is there a thing that they have that I guess?
Funny enough, I saw a friend post on Facebook that that's what Trump derangement syndrome actually is believing like he's telling you the truth and all these other things. It's like, yeah, there's a
What?
TDS to both sides. It's a horseshoe, right? And the TDS is a giant magnet, right? Swirling right here.
It's like it's a word like literally that means literally the antithesis of itself.
That's where I put Jay Fonda. Remember. Robert Mueller did it dumb by not stating he believes there's enough to go forward. He just can't because X. In the way that Jack Smith did.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe Jack Smith was a lot more ballsy in his approach.
But if you're already iron, it doesn't make oh right. There's somebody's birth. You think
There's
Trump's
speculation.
There's
I
speculation.
mean, we know that at some point Donald Trump tried to communicate. We know at some point Donald Trump tried to communicate personally with Robert Mueller. Why or what that conversation, if there was one, entailed, we don't know. We know that Robert Mueller took the actions he did in terms of soft language, very evasive, ambiguous language to bring this evidence to the public. Why that is, could be any number of reasons, but it could have something to do with those phone calls.
So then rather than just I don't know, are we saying then that presuming that phone call did take place and presuming Robert Mueller was spooked, he didn't say he had enough evidence. Here's my question. If he was spooked, why didn't he just say, I don't have enough evidence? Like, that's the thing you say if you're spooked. And so,
Yeah, if you're actually worried about retaliation, then you're like, total exoneration,
Yeah.
Trump's the greatest.
yeah, so like, is the way he worded it just his attempt to get away with it legally, I guess? Like saying what he wants to say without saying what he doesn't want to say. But then it feels like Trump would still take that as a slight and not at all what he was talking about. So like, the spooked thing doesn't fall right with me.
Maybe you hit it on the head with like this language makes it so that he's technically not lying. He's this evidence exonerated Trump or that there wasn't enough evidence to move forward, rather than just, relaying the evidence in this ambiguous, doublespeak.
Right, but he wouldn't have necessarily been in any danger anyways if Trump got who he wanted in place. What do we, it's not really an in place to him, it's just a, wait, who asked for the special counsel?
Must have been Andrew McCabe, or like, actually, let me just wise on that real quick. When did Robert Mueller as special counsel? Rod Rosenstein, so the deputy attorney general at the time appointed Robert Mueller as special counsel on May 2017, acting in his capacity as acting attorney general for the Russian investigation, because Attorney General Jeff Sessions had recused himself. That's right.
Right, so he recuses himself like a gentleman. Acting AG though, not spooked. Definitely calls on Robert Mueller to investigate. Why doesn't Donald Trump fire Deputy AG?
He didn't fire Sessions, well, I think he eventually did, yeah, he eventually fired Sessions,
Yeah, eventually.
but not, for the initial decision of recusing himself. I mean, maybe like, that is the reason he eventually did, he just waited a while to do it, so it wouldn't look like that was the reason.
But then, but yeah, but my question still stands, why did he fire the Deputy AG? Brad
Did
Bob Rosenstein? I
Trump
never even
ever
fire
fire
Brad
Rod
Rosenstein.
Rod Rosenstein.
Rod Rosenstein. God, it sounds like an 80s pop singer.
Yeah,
Rod Rosenstein.
yeah, I've met one person named Rod, I've heard of another person named Rod, and there's a famous person named Rod Stewart that I'm aware of, and now
Yeah.
Rod Rosenstein.
Yeah, Rod Rosenstein. Maybe it's the famous person that's making me feel like this. Anyway.
Wake up, Maggie, I think I got something to say now. That's my review.
So did Donald Trump fire Rod Rosenstein?
No, Rod Rosenstein was not fired by Donald Trump. He submitted his resignation as Deputy Attorney General in 2019 and left the Justice Department on his own timetable rather than being formally dismissed.
Okay,
So,
so he's planning, Rod Rosenstein is planning on leaving anyway. So he's appoints a special counsel to do this thing, and then he bounces.
years later, I think the special counsel was appointed in 2017, and he handed in his resignation in 2019. So he was the director, or he was acting attorney general for a while.
Okay, but Donald Trump doesn't see this and go, fuck you, sir, you're out.
I mean, again, as I see it, he tries to keep the firings to a minimum because of the headlines he needs to avoid. Like, that's why he waited so long with Sessions. I guess maybe Rod Rosenstein was never a big enough target, but I mean, I don't even care to speculate on why Donald Trump did or didn't fire these people that were causing him trouble.
And whether he did or didn't, the desires has been put out into the ethos, right? So
Probably so, yeah. Probably.
that's when we fire Robert Mueller. It still got out to us that Trump wanted Robert Mueller fired, right?
I mean, I think that came out with the findings in the Mueller probe. Like, we didn't know that this attempt to fire him had taken place until that report came out.
Gotcha. And then Robert Mueller puts his report together,
they didn't find any evidence, cause of course he found evidence, just not, like the things, the elements of criminal conspiracy that he was not able to prove are that the information, the document dump, of Hillary's emails was not sufficiently damaging to her campaign, and B, that, Jared Kushner and Doug Jr. and other members of his campaign had enough knowledge to know that what they were taking from what they were accepting, the help they were accepting in the form of this, document dump was illegal. They have to know that it's illegal for it to amount to criminal conspiracy.
Right.
And it has to and it has to actually do the job of damaging Hillary's campaign.
Right. Wasn't this part of season
Well-
3 of the newsroom's arc with Ned? Not Ned. Naresh?
Oh, can't remember his name in them.
You know who I'm talking about.
Slumdog Millionaire.
But
Oh.
maybe.
The Indian guy?
Yes.
Oh, the Dev Patel is his name. Is his name in real life?
Right.
Um,
His character's name.
Neil.
Neil.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of the season 3 of the newsroom arc for Neil? Is he asked somebody to do something he didn't know it was a federal crime?
Yeah, he got someone to in the course of vetting them as a source, he got them to reveal some documents, basically got them to commit, this mishandling of classified documents crime, and
Yeah.
thus, yeah. Can't remember what that was in reference to, or what the classified documents, I think they had something to do with a massacre by a government.
Yes, and we were not reporting on it in the United States for some reason.
Yeah. So Neil was trying to just probe for more information on this massacre, not realizing that the act he was getting this person to do was illegal.
Exactly, yes. But I think he was still in a lot of trouble for other reasons. Not sure.
I think that was what they went after him for. That was the reason that Jeff Daniels, Will McAvoy, went to jail to protect him.
Right. Okay. That we were talking about. Anyways,
That still stemmed from what was technically a non-political stuff and thing, which
I
was,
know. But I feel like you can make this Robert Mueller segment its own tiny little thing.
Yeah.
We just have to end that Robert Mueller segment. Somehow. In a funny way, theoretically. Nice. So I've steelmanned the Robert Mueller thing, I think, correctly, right?
Yes, hey, you understand it, I think, as well as I do. You understand why the conclusion of the Robert Mueller saga was so frustrating to me, why I saw him as the shining prince who would save Camelot, and then he emerged as just another, well, I don't know, spineless jellyfish.
I still think it's unethical at best to put out a report as he did, because it's unethical if he is guilty of these things and you're not saying so, and it's unethical if he's not guilty of these things but you're leaving everyone the impression that he probably is.
Yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I would say that the way
Well, like towards.
Attorney General at the time, Bill Barr, conveyed the report to the public was even more unethical. But yeah, I don't think there was anything ethical about the way that's one.
No. I'm adding things for my future brain.
Okay.
That was for my future brain. What did you just say? Your last thing you said?
You can see why I was so frustrated with the outcome of the Mueller report. I saw him as the shining prince that would save Camelot, but
Right.
in the end, it just ended with another Jesse Pinkman meme of he tried to kill you.
Yes. And I was talking about it's unethical if you know he's guilty, or if you professionally do think he's guilty and you don't explicitly say so. It's unethical if you don't professionally think he's guilty, but you kind of imply it anyways. So he's being unethical in either case.
Yeah, I think you should have taken a firm position in either direction.
Yes.
I agree that it would be unprecedented in history to do that to an acting president, but
Well, who cares? Why is that?
Exactly.
Why is that even a thing? Like, why are we worried about that?
it's a norm violation. It's like, once the standard is shattered, then
There is a
we can't
first
rest
for
our.
everything.
I absolutely agree. Hey, preaching to the converted, sister.
It's just that we've never done that before. And
Yeah, if Jack Smith had been the special counsel appointed by Rod Rosenstein in that case, I think we would all be much better.
alright, well, I think Robert Mueller's unethical in that regard.
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul. Trump is an asshole for saying he's glad he died.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Full stop.
yeah. He practically celebrated the death of John Lewis. I shouldn't say that. He refused to say anything nice about civil rights legend John Lewis upon his death, just because John Lewis never had anything nice to say about him.
To wrap this up, I believe I took some pictures of some memes that have to do with this particular topic. Let's see if I can find that. There's the memes. But I do have that question asked and I can ask it.
Okay, I'm out of lizards. Better use my defenses. I don't have very many defense things.
Damn, I thought I was sweating out. Alright, well, isn't.
Well, ask me
okay.
your hypothetical question.
Oh, okay.
Alright.
This is a question in my socials media scrolls that came across from the Jason K. Pargin, not sure how to say his name. I should figure out how to say his name. Which is one of the people I told you might be interested in looking up.
Afraid I've not done so. Remind me who Jason K. Parkin is.
No one of consequence.
Okay.
Just I do believe he is an author. I don't know what he writes books about. His brain's just interesting. I think you find his brain interesting.
Okay.
This is a question he posed as the hypothetical. Would you prefer to live in a completely anarchist society where there is no government, or in a society where it's authoritarian and there is complete control with the government?
choice between two bad options, in my opinion.
Yes.
I think in the authoritarian case, yeah. I mean, anarchy just, it's one of those ideas that hasn't really been tried at a large scale, so we don't really know how it plays out, but we just kind of assume that it's a complete disaster. It's basically just saying we're going to scrap the idea of civilized society and go back to tribal hunter-gatherer mindset. And I know that that's not like what anarchists believe, like they just hate the government and believe we'd be better off governing ourselves, but I just think at scale, given the size of humanity right now, there's just nothing close to anarchy that would result in anything other than a Lord of the Flies sort of tribal system that we just it would not be good for anyone. It would be a regression to a more primal, more primitive state of civilization, as opposed to authoritarianism, which not everyone survives that, but probably more people survive it than survive the anarchist society. So I would, between those two bad options, I would choose authoritarianism, I think.
Interesting. Okay. May I give you my reasoning?
Please.
So I choose anarchy. And I choose anarchy because the alternative is almost certain to make the life I am living hell. And at least in the anarchist version, we might have the chance to be able to use the modern conveniences we have to build our own tiny tribes, sure, but that doesn't mean the tribes don't have to work together in order to have a better chance of survival. So the fact that that is a real possibility of it happening, and I'd rather have that than the almost certainly terrible life I would have under an authoritarian person. I'd rather be dead.
That might just be a difference between you and me. Like, I'd rather sell out my dream of what society should look like for a chance at a few more years of 3 hots and a cot, rather than being willing to check out early for my ideals.
I'd still have 3 hots and a cot though.
In an anarchy society, no, you would be basically guaranteed food.
Hots, thank you. I could
yeah.
not understand what hots meant. Got it.
Yeah, hot meals. Sorry, like
Food and bed.
Yep, exactly. It wouldn't be ideal, and perhaps I would be miserable, but it would be steady. It would be enough. Well, I've never lived in an authoritarian society, knock on wood, but I don't think. I don't want to speculate on whether I would be one who is loyal enough to survive such a thing, or like at what point I would be morally outraged, like indignation would trump interest. Trump indignation. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. At what point I would decide enough is enough, and we need to rebel against the masters. And I don't care what consequence it has. I don't care if it means cutting the head off the power structure and starting from scratch, Arab Spring style.
different way of looking at it. I like that we can articulate our choices. That makes me happy. And fascinating.
Yeah.
And now I must ask everyone else that question.
Hmm?
That you were. I took a picture of asking you.
Hmm.
While I'm here, at all times, there is a whale outside your room.
No. Oh wait, yeah, in the ocean, because there's all of the whales, literally all of the whales in existence are outside my room.
Yeah, that's why it's such an interesting thought. And it's just the way to phrase the thought, or the sentence. It's just an interesting way to phrase the sentence.
Yeah.
At all times, there is a whale outside of your room. Yes, that's true. That
Yeah.
is true. Technically.
I mean, there's always a giant tarantula outside my room. There's always like a huge scorpion, a huge chupacabra,
Yep.
an orangutan. All manner of threats. Yep.
Oh, well, wait. Let me tell you my favorite Chuck Norris joke. I'll put it back in that area. So my favorite Chuck Norris death joke that I found on the internet so far, and I have no idea why this gives me the giggles, but it just says, Chuck Norris died today at the age of 86. He is expected to make a full recovery. I love it.
I don't know that I have followed the socials media enough to have a favorite Chuck Norris death joke, but I will go ahead and cite a few of my favorite Chuck Norris jokes from
Yeah. You do yours, I'll do mine.
Back
We'll
in
do
the
one
day.
off and one off.
There is no theory of evolution, only a group of animals that Chuck Norris allows to live.
But you those.
Chuck Norris has actually caught Carmen Sandiego on numerous occasions, but releases her because he enjoys the hunt.
That's really good. I have one that goes, a snake bit Chuck Norris, and after 5 days of excruciating pain, the snake finally died.
At one point, a fan stopped Chuck Norris in an airport and accidentally called him Chick Norris. Chuck Norris just like laughed and laughed it off and signed an autograph, but 9 months later his wife gave birth to a bearded baby. The man blames no one but himself.
Chuck Norris can divide by 0.
I think I told you that one.
Did you?
Because like
I love
you
that one.
because like you didn't know that dividing by 0 was a thing. Like I think we might even see this in this might even be one of the recorded conversations. Like because I have to think about the division by 0 error all the time because I'm a programmer. It's just like second nature to me. But like it was kind of news to you that you brought up one day that like, wow, did you know that there's like it just causes an error. It doesn't produce an actual number if you divide by 0.
On a calculator, on a specific calculator, it will come up with either 0 or error.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, yes, I remember this discussion. And at some point, I went back and did a whole deep dive on it in perplexity. And I'll have to find and send to you.
Yes.
It is fascinating.
Yeah, it's so awesome. It's just so fascinating. But yeah, the Chuck Norris can divide by 0 one stuck with me. Love it. What else you got?
Chuck Norris doesn't have to do anything for a Klondike bar.
That's great. That's amazing.
Oh man. The only other one I can remember is is it, some I don't know if I got, something about like the Chuck Norris roundhouse kick is being considered as a, unit of energy. So,
Oh, it might have been weapon of mass destruction.
could be that too. There's a variation of both of those.
Yeah. I heard Chuck Norris tell one about a tiger that I don't want to necessarily botch, but I will try to get it across. And I think it's because it's not like, it doesn't start like a joke that makes it even better. So, Chuck Norris was visiting a zoo and he wanted to go pet the tiger. So Chuck Norris was led into the tiger's, entrance and space, and Chuck
Oh,
Norris
shit.
knelt down and started petting the tiger.
Wow, this thing works great.
At some point, the tiger's ears just came back real hard, and the attendant that was with him was like, okay, just back away really slowly. And the tiger did.
Love this shit.
Saw where that was going, but yeah.
Yes, but it's so good. I love it. Ah, Chuck Norris.
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
We
Universe
shall
rest
never
his
see his
soul.
like again, and now his watch is ended, and so forth.
Apparently, also, did you know that the Chuck Norris jokes were originally started as Vin Diesel jokes? No. Vince, no. Vin. Who's the dude? Who's the other dude with the splits?
I mean, there's a guy named Vin Diesel.
No, yeah, but it's not Vin Diesel. It was Jean-Claude Van Damme. Van Damme, that's what I was going for.
Oh, was it Steven Seagal?
No, it was originally said about Van Damme, and it just kind of morphed into Chuck Norris.
It's funnier.
It is funnier, I think. Especially too, when did you, okay. This is a very 80s thing, or early 90s thing. It's definitely a millennial thing, because I have heard no one else have this experience.
It's a good.
There were, in my area, there were Chuck Norris karate studios everywhere.
Oh,
Were there Chuck Norris karate studios in your area?
don't remember ever seeing one, no.
Okay, so I do not know how Chuck Norris got his start, but I assume he was very good at karate and being a businessman. And so he started a bunch of karate studios, and I definitely took classes there. And
Wow, really?
yeah, got pretty far. I remember hating it. I remember my mom telling me that I had to suck it up and do it anyways. And I would do it anyways, and I'd still hate it after playing every single time. As I'm ranking up in belts. But all that to say, I remember doing it.
What did you hate about it, if you may ask?
It's a great question. It was time I was spending learning something I wasn't passionate about for no reason.
The idea, the notion of self-defense, of like being able to walk through a dark alley without fear, that never appealed to you?
I don't think that was on my mind when I was given this opportunity. It might have been on my mom's time. And maybe that's why she signed me up. I don't actually remember. I'll have to ask her that. That's an action item. But I
years that I've lived there, I got up to the blue belt, I think, which is in Taekwondo, I went white, yellow with a green stripe, green with a blue stripe, blue. 6 in. We got 6 in.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. How many belts did you get in karate?
So, this is gonna be difficult because I've learned the capoeira chords, so I don't know if I'll be misremembering this, but it's definitely, you start with white, then you go to yellow, then you go to brown, then you go to purple, then you go to orange, then you go to something, then you go to black, red then black maybe.
Red was the one right before black for us, but then brown was the one right before red, I think.
That makes sense, hue-wise.
So we didn't have an orange.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's the same for all Taekwondo or all karate for all.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different for all of them, but, I don't remember what level I got up to. I do know it was farther than I cared about.
Gotcha.
Or not cared about, that's wrong. It was farther than I expected to go based on how long I was thinking about it.
Is that when you wish you could have been allowed
Yeah.
to win this thing? Yeah.
Cause I did the tournaments and all that stuff, and I will say, it did feel really good to be able to take somebody down in the foot sweep. That is a thrill, for sure.
It's a thrill I've never had. It's I would love to, I'm gonna go back and watch that sometime.
Yeah, okay, I'll go in and I'll for you, or I'll go in for you. So,
Probably so, yeah.
yeah, Chuck Norris Karate Studios, yes, our side Chuck Norris is gone. We knew it would happen eventually, I love all of them, they're great.
Yes. Rest in peace, Walker, Texas Ranger.
I would like to know what you would like to talk about next. Are we heading into all snow neutral official?
We may as well, would you consider the, yeah, I don't think this is really necessarily political, but the, LaGuardia, airplane accident?
I don't actually know about that, I just know an accident occurred
Yeah,
and that the pilots are dead, I think.
the pilots were the only fatalities, several passengers and firefighters are injured, I think. But yeah, the only fatalities, I believe, were the pilot and co-pilot. I think it's being attributed to a series of failures relating to understaffing. And as we know, like, staffing has been an issue in this, like, age of government shutdowns.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I don't know whether this would happen,
Okay.
and staffing not been a problem, I don't know, but like, we have audio from the air traffic controllers and the, I think they call it the, ground crew coordinator, like whoever's, watching the, whoever's like keeping track of who's on the tarmac driving around, like, a fire truck was driving around and, either they didn't hear the, direction to stop or ignored it. I imagine they just didn't hear it, or there was like cross communication due to faulty technology. But it, drove right into the path of a landing, vehicle that was, still decelerating and was still moving about, anywhere from 100 to 130 miles per hour. And it hit this fire truck.
The fire truck couldn't see the plane landing?
I think if you, watch the story, you see that it's a trajectory, like the, one of them was turning a corner. And perhaps it's in, I'm not sure same situation to, I guess, cross it over into, political things is, ICE has been, do you know about this, that like, ICE, agents have been deployed to help move the TSA lines along,
Yes.
despite there not really being trained to do that or anything else, really, as I see it. But, yeah, certainly not, with the not having the training to, help someone through a TSA line or to know, like, what is safe or unsafe to bring onto a plane. And it seems like, throwing spaghetti at, well, I don't know, throwing bodies at the problem, like, hey, we've got all these ICE agents we don't need in Minneapolis anymore. Can we use them to help solve our, airport slowdown problem? Just like,
Why not?
because they don't have the training, I guess would be the simplest, most obvious answer.
But like, some of those things are easy to train, so you could theoretically just keep a smaller rotation of people
Right.
doing the harder things, right?
She was just kidding TSA workers of the world. We do not think that your job is that easy that we could simply like take an ICE worker and put them through a 2-week boot camp and they could do your thing. We do not think that at all. She was kidding. She'll apologize now.
I'll apologize in a second. I'll apologize in 1 second. How long is the TSA training process? TSA says post-completion of initial training includes an immersive 2 to 3 week TSA academy program.
Okay, maybe your job can be learned to.
So I will not apologize. I'm not saying you're not valuable though, like, you are valuable, but if you're not going to get paid, then, you know, being asked to work anyway sucks. So why not train an ICE agent so that you don't have to comply with this as often. They're already getting paid because they work for the government. So, you know, because their stuff isn't up for question.
Why? I like if the TSA workers aren't getting paid, why are ICE agents getting paid?
That's a great question.
Hang on, give me like 5 minutes. I'm gonna heat up food.
Oh yeah, I should probably do all the things as well.
Okay.
We'll come back to the answer of the ways.
Cool.
If TSA agents aren't getting paid, how come ICE agents are? Question mark. You cook.
It's good stuff. code canon next time.